you guys and gals have energized yourselves with some sugar and caffeine this break. Yeah, so let's talk about using APIs. I'm done. I really like APIs. They're so much fun. You can take some data from over there and combine it with something over here and bring them together to create something totally new. And when I'm talking about APIs in this sense, I'm talking about external APIs or web services. And APIs in general was what got me hooked on coding and developing. I'm just going to reach out. How many of you guys or gals are developers, like consuming APIs? Couple of hands, perfect. And how many of you are API providers, like building APIs for others to use? Cool. I think I have a little bit of both for you. I think of myself as the humble developer. So again, I'm Erik, and few of you may know me as the train API guy. I worked on a couple of projects regarding transportation and commutation in Sweden. I started off by building a API for train rides, commute trains, regional trains in Sweden. When I was commuting from Linköping, 2 hours east of I will stand here, perfect, east of Stockholm. And I think it was back in 2005 when Google released the Maps API. And that was the first like energizing spirit I thought when looking at the API, and hey, I can actually geocode my address into longitude and latitude just by sending a web request to Google, and I will get it back. And that since then I was hooked on creating new fun stuff. So I work at Tictail today, which is a startup in Stockholm and based in New York since half a year, which is a e-commerce platform or for anyone to create an online store. And obviously we have an app platform and public APIs and all of that. But the main thing for using APIs is to solving real problems, like real problems you have in your everyday life. If it's about finding the best coffee place around the corner, just getting to a venue in your new city where you haven't been for a while, or anything like that. So I will talk about like how I'm as a developer using APIs, what I tend to should have taught myself if I can go back to 2005. What's the developer approach in using APIs and web services? This often makes me sad when services go down, and that's not just me. Every developer trying to reach your endpoints in some way will have a sad face when finding something like this. So the first thing I want to like throw out there is never to trust a web service or an API, because you never know what you will get back from it in terms of formatting and encoding and all that stuff. So Murphy's law is always present. That's a good thing to know. Yeah, and you never know what you expect from it. So even Google goes down if you can see this. So never trust an API. And in that sense, you kind of want to build for failure, even if it's everything from the API isn't responding at all, into like what kind of formats you get back, and you kind of want to monitor the API dependencies you have. So if you're using some endpoint at Google, for example, you kind of wanna set up a Pingdom account or anything, like just check that it's working as it should, like beside your own application, just to make sure it's up and running, or if it's behaving badly, the circumstances may fall then that your application will be affected by this service going down. So in that sense, when API you're using is going down, you have to. There's multiple ways of handling that. One obvious reason is to use cached responses. So whenever you use an API, you wanna like grab onto that response you finally get back, and maybe cache that for later use. So when a service goes down, you can still serve your users of your application with some kind of content, even if your dependency is down for the moment. Yeah. So moving on, this is kind of a better response code, because now we see that something is actually working. We get the response back, and it hasn't timed out, but something is still bad about the request. Maybe you're inputting wrong type of parameters, or maybe you got the encoding wrong, because you all use UTF-8, right? Probably not. Okay. So yeah, we're getting somewhere. But both me and the API in this sense is still kind of sad. Everything isn't as it should, and most often it's something I still see in the day-to-day work is like broken bodies, like when the gateway actually just cuts the body right off. Let's say half the body is served and the other half is just empty, or in some function trying to format date string, it just cuts it off. So that makes it impossible to handle or parse that response at all, and you just have to try again to get a full one next time. And just response formats is something that it should be so simple. Just be consistent about it. I think Facebook is getting up to speed when serving like consistent endpoints and consistent responses, but there's still, yeah, it's a jungle still. Like some are XML, some are just raw text, and some are as you want to work with JSON, obviously. And what about encoding? Can't we just come to sense with using UTF-8? It will save everyone that a lot of time if you can just use the same content encoding everywhere. Just being consistent will help me as a developer a lot. So yeah, let's say if you're using a service that you hammer a lot with a lot of requests, often some kind of limitations in sorts of requests per minute or per hour or per day. So when you hit that limit, you will probably be presented with an HTTP 429, which tells you basically to back off for a while. You can't run any more requests at this endpoint. And there are a couple of reasons to wonder about this and actually use some kind of exponential backoff as a developer. So if you reach a HTTP 429, you want to maybe back off for a couple of seconds and then try again. And if that don't work either, maybe back off for 10 seconds and exponentially until the service is back up and you can make happy requests again, like in the 200 range. But they're just handle these kind of errors in a graceful manner, and don't straight away when you get it to a 200 range back start hammering the service again with the 1,000 requests per minute. It will probably get you back at this point right away. So we get a little bit closer to what we're aiming for. So we're finally approaching 200 states. So we're okay, and let's celebrate for a moment. We did something right, obviously, and hopefully we got the response back as well that we wanted. So let's have some fun with it. I really like using a tool called JQ, which is a client-side, a command line tool for processing JSON. And it kind of takes this, which is like a raw JSON blob without new lines or anything. This is not that readable. And I'm lazy, so I tend to not want to try to parse this in my head and make it more readable. So that's what JQ does really well. So you can take in something like this, just a curl endpoint, and then do like formatting on the command line, which is pretty awesome. And in this example, I'm mapping the title, price, and the first image of a product endpoint. We use a Tictail. This is an external endpoint, so it actually works. You can run this. And instead of getting this, we get this in the terminal, which is much more readable and something that we can work with, figure out what we want to do about it. Maybe we want to fetch another parameter from the object, or map or reduce this in some way, and you can do it straight away from the command line, which is pretty sweet. So when you're like fiddling around with it and trying to find new ways for this awesome API to integrate with your service or build your app around it or whatever you wanna do today, there's often like limits, not in the sense of how many requests per minute. That could be the case as well. So if you want to work with like bigger data sets, you may want to like download, depending on the licensing agreement, of course. But you may want to download like huge data sets to do aggregates or map your data in some way, or build it and work along with other data sources as well. And for that, I tend to use like all the NoSQL hipster data stores around. So Redis, Mongo, and Elastic is like the stuff I use day to day, just to do transformations and like figure out what's possible with the data. I just want to mention again that read the licensing, because not all APIs let you like store their data in your own servers for how long, but just a notice. And some bonus slides coming up for you API providers in the room. To make the API consumers happy, like me. Always be JSON. I hope you're not that into that XML stuff anymore. It's horrible and it's verbose and it's not good for developers or computers to parse. So stop doing that and do all JSON. And I see a couple of APIs that don't paginate at all. Like, let's say you have 10,000 records on an endpoint. You want to get those into your other service, and you can't paginate. Then you need to get all those 10,000 in one request, and that's not really doable, right? And it's really, really slow. We'll probably end with the 504 gateway timeout. So just implement limits and offsets, then you're fine. And please provide some runnable examples, like right away. Just copy paste curl, and it should work. Maybe with some authentication token, that's fine. But provide runnable examples. It's a great way to get developers into your trying and fiddling around your APIs. So, and that's easily translatable into like any language of choice. So, I think that's me. You can grab me on this email address if you want to ask questions or anything. That's all for me. Thanks.
Thank you very much.